Joining me now is a Bellator MMA lightweight fighter who takes on Saad Awad on the main card of Bellator 186 on November 3rd. Please welcome Zach Freeman to the program for the very first time. Zach, how's it going?
I'm great. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to doing this interview.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the time. Really appreciate it today. Now, firstly, we got to talk about your last fight. It was your Bellator debut. You went in to the fight at Bellator NYC on the big main card, pay-per-view, Madison Square Garden, all of that against a very hyped prospect in Aaron Pico, and you tapped him out really quickly. Since that win, do you feel like, have you felt the marketing machine that is, in Bellator sort of try and push you? Do you feel like this was a situation where, okay, so they're really hyping Aaron Pico, but now that you beat him, why not try and, see what you have to offer as far as marketing? Have you felt a little push from Bellator?
I still don't have a video to walk out to, and, I still really don't feel I've got that push, but what I have gotten is I've gotten the opportunity, and that's all I can ask for at this point. I think that I need to earn that, and they're giving me the platform and the opportunity on a main card on Bellator 186 to do that. So that's all I can truly ask for right now. It's up to me from here to take advantage of the opportunity, once again seize that opportunity. But boy, I better get something after this. That's all I can say.
What are you looking for after this? More money? An even bigger fight? What is that getting more after this one?
I think more of a marketing push. Maybe a video, as well as I always hear about these discretionary locker room bonuses. So one of those would be really awesome.
Yeah, I bet. I guess they're not pushing you as much as you would like, as you said, no video, and just in general. I mean, they're definitely not pushing you as much as they were pushing Aaron Pico, but they are putting you on the main card of a fairly big Bellator show. You have Bader and Vassell in the main event, pretty good main event. It's at Penn State. It's not like they're throwing you, say, in the middle of the prelims and saying, go do whatever, no big deal. They're pushing, they're giving you, as you said, that platform, so.
You got it. Yeah, and that's where, maybe I haven't got a marketing push now, but they also have other shows and other athletes they have to do that. So I think after this fight, look for the next 2 weeks. They're probably going to do a marketing push for me. That's why I don't want to put my foot in my, or I should put my foot in my mouth for now and at least give them an opportunity. So there's still a couple of weeks for them to do that, and I'm sure they will. So you know what, the Bellator staff has been wonderful. Everyone from the operations to the daily staff I dealt with, they've all been wonderful. So I have nothing bad to say. All I can say is that I appreciate the opportunity again to prove myself as a world-known fighter.
Now, since your win over him in June, Aaron Pico has gone on to win his first pro fight. He won by knockout. It was a pretty good win. Did you watch it?
Of course. Not only did I watch it, I wished him luck as well as I rooted for him. I believe anyone I ever fight, win or lose, I want them to win. In my opinion, whenever you fight someone, you've now invested yourself into them and their name, almost like a stock. So all I can ever do is root for my past opponents because essentially I want them to raise my stock.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. Do you feel like Pico, say if Pico goes on a 5-fight tear, hey, he's now, say, 5-1, 6-1, the one being, of course, your submission, that makes you look quite a bit better. Do you agree?
Of course, yeah. I hope he goes 10-1.
Sure. On the flip side, sort of to play devil's advocate, do you feel like if he keeps winning and he ends up being a top talent, like right now he's still, lower level, he's a big enough, he's a fairly big name already, but he's only had 2 pro fights, but do you feel like if he does end up having, tons of success and maybe even exceeds his expectations, do you feel like, that might backfire on you, and people will still just know you as and refer to you as, the guy that beat Pico in his debut, blah, blah, blah. And if so, what do you have to do to get past that?
You know what? The best case scenario would be for everyone to win. It's called a win-win situation. It's what we try to do in business. And I think a win-win situation would be for me to continue winning against top talent and possibly put myself in position for a title. You know, best case scenario, say I win a title and I'm the lightweight champ. And let's say Aaron Pico does the same and wins a featherweight title. Would that not set up for an amazing kind of Conor McGregor, Eddie Alvarez situation where we can do a pay-per-view event and be the main event, and he can fight for 2 titles, and I can give him that title shot, or I can give him that redemption shot.
So you think, you know, even though he's dropped down to 145 and is no longer in your weight class, he's young, you're still early in your career, things change. Do you feel like you know, if you had to predict, I know this could be years down the line, you know, I'm sure you know that too, but do you think you cross paths with him again?
I do.
When? Is that, as you said, when you're the lightweight champion, when he's the featherweight champion, and probably a number of years down the road, or do you think that's sooner than later? When do you feel like that could happen?
I think that could be 2 years from now, a year and a half from now, you know.
Excellent. Was the win, you know, of course, you know, in the eyes of many, it was a big upset. In the eyes of the odds makers, and that's what counts the most, of course. They're who, you know, who made you a big underdog and all of that. You know, it was a big upset. You were obviously really excited to beat Aaron Pico and derail that hype train and start to get people to notice you, so to speak. Was it almost a little bittersweet, though, just because I know you seemed a little frustrated that nobody was talking about you or ultimately, you know, cared about you, so to speak. All eyes were on Aaron Pico, and then afterwards, once you beat him, everybody wanted to talk to you. And I'll admit it right now, I didn't interview before the Pico fight, and here we are doing an interview ahead of only your second Bellator fight. How annoying is that, and does that make the fight at all bittersweet?
Not at all. You know, I think what my point was that once you get to a level like this, you, God forbid, you really hope that you deserve that. So, you know, for me to have that opportunity to fight at MSG on a pay-per-view card, I felt like I did deserve a little bit more of attention. But at the same time, it did make for a sweeter victory. So I wouldn't trade any of it in. I wouldn't redo anything. I'm very happy with the results as well as how things turned out. I think the lesson that I wanted to be learned there, again, is that when it comes to the media, if someone has earned the opportunity to fight on such a big card, such a big opportunity, such a big venue, I think everyone should get a little bit of attention. And that's where I walked out to an Aaron Pico video. You know, that pissed me off. That upset me. But rightly so. What have I done to deserve that video? So, you know, I look back and I can say, well, I've put in a number of years to being a pro fighter. I've spent my money to get to this position. You know, we don't make money. More money has came out of my pocket than made, even probably now to date, you know, with fighting. So, you know, I think that's where the media has to realize, man, these guys have worked hard. Let's help them get a little more attention, you know, makes it more worthy for sponsors and other opportunities for fighters.
Have those outside opportunities come to you? Have you gotten more sponsors since the Pico fight? And I'm sure you've gotten a few more, but has it been a drastic change, or have you had a lot of changes in your life as far as your fighting career and sponsors and all of that? Just, of course, not as much as of a push as you would like, as we talked about earlier.
Sure. And that's where, you know, I think that push will come. I think after this card, I think Bellator will do some marketing push for me. As far as sponsors go, you know, I don't have any big sponsors. It's still people who are in my life that want to support me. So I do thank those people, and hopefully I can get a chance to plug a few sponsors at the end. But, again, I still don't know if I've deserved exactly the American Ethanol and the Oak Technologies. I don't know that I've deserved those sponsors yet. So, again, all I can do is what's in my control, and that's train hard, show up and fight, make weight, and represent myself to the best of my ability to where Bellator, sponsors, all these people want to be on the Zach Freeman team.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the experience at Bellator NYC in general. Of course, happy to get the victory, but it was a big stage. It was a lot bigger of a stage. Your prior fight was on RFA, which at the time before it merged with LFA, or I guess I should say Legacy, was a top regional promotion. But this was a different level. It was MSG Bellator's debut at the iconic arena, and what in general, overall, from fight week to the fight to afterwards, aftermath, etc., what was the experience like?
It was pretty surreal. I had been in New York City a few years ago, and I remember walking in front of Penn Station and kind of seeing Madison Square Garden and not ever imagining even having the opportunity to fight there. So, it was very eye-opening in that you never know where life is going to take you. It's so easy to want to, ride this wave we call life and think that, nothing's going to change. I'm going to work the same job and have the same people in my life. But life can flip on a dime, and it could be for good or bad, So it was pretty surreal. I remember doing a video, staying out in front of Penn Station and just kind of talking to my followers and saying, hey, look where I'm at. If you'd have told me 3 years ago that standing in the same spot that I would be fighting on the main card of one of the bigger promotions in the world at Madison Square Garden, I'd have been like, what? Are you kidding? That's so awesome, So it would have been almost disbelief. But I think when you continue to work hard at something and you continue to grind and you continue to put in that work, there's no other answer than you're going to find success, So I just wanted to share with all the people that knew me that, hey, I don't care what you're going through in life right now. Have hope that things can change, because they can.
Were you surprised the Pico fight was on the main card and not the under Bellator 180 free card?
I was. I thought that would have been something in the contract for me to negotiate, possibly maybe a few points or something to make a little extra money. So regardless, I didn't throw my hands up and say, what the heck, in all honesty, all it did was make for a bigger platform for me, more of an opportunity. So I'm very thankful for everything. I'm very thankful.
And just to clarify, you were talking about pay-per-view points and wishing you would have gotten some, yes?
Yeah, but I think that, there's so many fighters that fight on pay-per-view that don't have that luxury. So, for me to expect something like that, I think is a little, it's a little wishy-washy. So,
sure, fair enough.
Again, you gotta earn things in this life, and that's what I'm willing to do.
All right. So you said in an interview with James Lynch recently that you don't always enjoy fighting until you let it sink in, and afterwards, in hindsight, you realize, hey, that was actually a bit of fun. But when you're in there, you're not actually enjoying the moment. Can you elaborate on exactly, what you mean by that, how that works? I mean, people say that sure people are fighting sometimes just for the money, but most people agree and think that to be a pro MMA fighter, you gotta love what you're doing, and you're not just in it for the money. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you change that and make yourself enjoy it, or can you?
Well, I think when I said that, what I mean to clarify is that, the things that I enjoy are the training and the sharing relationships and watching other fighters that you train with win. And that stuff I love, especially after putting in all the hard work and getting your hand raised. There's no better feeling. But I'll tell you what, this sport is the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And, the fight itself isn't necessarily something I enjoy, It's a stressful, nerve-wracking thing to put yourself in front of millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people and to fight another person. So I think that, what I mean by that is it's not exactly the most enjoyable experience, and it's not, anyone who enjoys hurting someone else or hurting himself, you'd call crazy, But, I do this again for self-fulfillment. I don't fight for money. I don't fight for fame. I fight for a personal void to fill, which is I love to be a competitor. I love to push myself mentally and physically. That's why I fight, is to grow as a person, to grow spiritually, and to really push my limits as a person. That's what I want to one day look back and say, you know what, I did what I could to fulfill what gifts God gave me, and that's what I enjoy. So, I hope that answers your question. It's a hard thing to explain, but I love the game. I love the people in it. But to say that the fight night is the funnest thing, I'd be lying.
Well, I appreciate the honesty, because I know it's sort of like a subject a lot of fighters would not necessarily admit to, even if it was the case, even if they enjoyed, the other aspects of fighting more. They, oftentimes you rarely hear fighters say they don't actually like the fight. It's interesting that this is, what you like the most, just because you say you like training more than the actual fight, where for the majority of fighters, at least from my perspective, from me, talking to other fighters, etc., the training, the 2 months leading up to the fight is the work, and then the fight is the almost the reward. For you, it's sort of vice versa.
Yeah. When you win, I would say yes, it's a reward. When you lose, man, there's nothing more heartbreaking or gut-wrenching than putting in all that work and it not paying off. So I've been on both sides, and I've learned that all I can do is work hard and push myself and push my limits to set me up for that success and that reward at the end.
I believe it. Well, anyways, let's move on to the future. You're taking a big step up here at Bellator 186 in lightweight Saad Awad. Were you surprised when they gave you, a pretty solid opponent? Awad has never been a champion or he's never fought for the title, but he's always been there. He's a veteran, and he's always been, on the cusp of a title shot or in the top 5. Were you surprised when they named, him as your next opponent?
No, I think that's kind of what I was expecting. If you remember my press conference after the fight, I had said, I think I threw a kink in some plans and I expect some heavy hitters. And boy, did I get what I said. So, Saad, he's very durable. He's well-conditioned. He's a veteran. He likes to get in there and make it gritty, and you know what, so do I. So I think we match up well. I think we're both respectful competitors. I think we'll both bring our A game, and I think we'll both put on a great fight, and may the best man win.
With a win over him, where do you stand in the lightweight division? Of course, that'd be a win over Aaron Pico, who, although he never had the MMA credentials to be a top guy, he certainly was a top prospect and still is. And Saad Awad, again, he's a veteran, he hits hard, and he's a name in the division. Do you think you could be in title contention with a victory?
I think victory over Saad, it puts me in at least the top 5 talk. I think it puts me in a position to fight guys like, Ben Henderson or Carrington Banks or Patricky Fede or, some of the top names. I think it puts me in that same discussion. Gordy Yamauchi and,
I was just going to say, as far as the top of the division goes, we, of course, have Primus as the champion. Chandler still there, although he's weighing the option of maybe moving up. We have Patricky, as you mentioned. Who do you see fighting for the title next? Do you think Primus and Chandler will do it again because of the controversial win on the card you fought at? Or do you think Patricky gets another crack at the title against Primus?
I think Primus and Chandler kind of owe it to the fans after all the dispute and all that. I think Chandler owes Primus a rematch after explaining his side of how he thinks things went. I think he kind of took some of the win away from Primus. Primus claims, hey, man, I kicked your leg so hard it shut off a nerve and it screwed your leg up. And he very may well be right. So I think it's kind of owed to Bellator and the fans for Mike to go after that fight again. But Mike's also in a position that he can kind of do whatever he wants, and he rightly so. You know, if he wants to do a super fight at welterweight or do whatever he wants, he has that luxury. So, I think that if that fight didn't happen, I think Patricky makes sense to fight pretty much for that title.
Excellent. Of course, Awad, as I said, he's a fairly big name, and you only have the one fight in Bellator. Do you expect to be another underdog here in your second appearance in the Bellator cage? And if so, even if you do, I suspect you don't really care or don't feel like that matters. Just look back, a few months, of course.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me whether I come in or whether I'm an underdog or not. I'm showing up to fight 3 rounds, all 15 minutes, hard as I can. So, we'll see where we'll see where we stand on November 3rd at the end of the night.
Now, in the same interview I referenced earlier with James Lynch from a few days back, you actually called for a decision. You predicted you would beat Awad by decision, but you thought it would be a pretty tough fight and go all 3 rounds. Is that, again, just the honesty that you have that, as I talked about earlier, some fighters wouldn't have admitted that they don't like to fight, and as you did. Is that just being honest, or do you think, because, again, as I sort of meant, we rarely hear that. Rarely do I hear a fighter say I'm going to win by decision. It's almost always sub or knockout. Or do you feel like this fight is going to be tougher than usual for whatever reason?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough fight. He's very durable. He is not an easy guy to sub or put away or knock out. So, you know what? I'm a person who lives very much in reality. So I think in reality, I think I need to expect the worst and hope for the best. So I think when I say a 3-round decision, I'm expecting the worst case scenario. So
excellent. And you're a pretty big 155er. I imagine you cut a bit of weight. How is the weight cut in general? Is it a rather easy process because you've done it so many times and sort of nailed it down to perfection in a way, or do you still have a tough time making lightweight?
You know what? It doesn't matter what I do. It's always going to be hard to make that weight class. But you know what? I do have strategy down. I do have it down. I've always done it, and I've only fought at welterweight a few times. So, you know what? If Saad wants to make it 160, I'm happy to do that. So I'll put that out there. Saad, if you want to do catch weight, hey, I'm always more than happy to do that. But I'm always more than happy to make weight.
Do you think you might have a long-term future at welterweight?
I think I stand out at lightweight. So my goal right now is to continue at lightweight. I don't even want to think about welterweight, to be honest.
Awesome. And last question for you, Zach, other than... Well, actually, your last question, because I know how you think the fight will play out. You mentioned you have a full-time job still. What do you do actually full-time? What is your day job besides fighting? And do you have any plans in place, or would you like to leave that job after a couple more fights if you get a higher purse and ultimately just financially are in a situation with your fights that you can, be a full-time fighter?
So I work for a company called Working Spaces, and I sell architectural products. So in office environments now, a lot of the private offices and conference rooms are made of glass or other materials, and I sell these floor-to-ceiling wall systems. So the one I represent is called Mars, and I love what I do, and really my goal is to set myself up as kind of a person to know to contact if you ever need walls. So even if I didn't do this job full-time in the future, it would be something where I've invested so much time and I've made a name in my industry to where it could always be a job that I do for the rest of my career because I've kind of built that foundation in that business, and I don't necessarily have to put as much time in it in the future as I did in the past.
All right, very interesting. Well, Zach, really appreciate the time. Best of luck to you in a week against Saad Awad at Bellator 186. Before I let you go, let my audience know where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you would like to thank or give a shout out to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If you want to learn more about me, you can check out my website, ZachFreemanMMA.com. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, I'm at alterboymma.com, or at alterboymma, I'm sorry. I'd like to say thank you to, my past sponsors as well as sponsors who stuck by my side. I want to say thank you to Autoplex Extended Services. They do extended car warranties. I want to say thank you to Show Me Credit Solutions. They do credit repair. Also want to say thank you to S&S Collisions, to Working Spaces, to Mars Living Walls, as well as St. Charles MMA, and also to Trials MMA in Fort Collins, Colorado. Also want to say thank you to my newest sponsor, Sugar Fire Barbecue, as well as to Il Conda. They're a motorcycle stunt team who goes around on Harley Davidsons. They're crazy. And they do shows at dealerships, and they put on performances and events. So I appreciate your time, and I hope to put on a good performance for everybody.